Today we're going to be looking at the Rapid Strike archetype. It has made a few changes from the Paradox Rift expansion. It's gained Earthen Vessel, which is a great way for us to thin the deck of Water Energy, a critical component of the archetype, because we really function off of Double Gunner. It's also just naturally thinning the deck, which is fantastic. We pick up a Professor's Churro scenario, which is a small upgrade to Cheryl in the past, because it can be a way for us to clean up our board and pick up a Pokemon that possibly we no longer need in the action, to free up board space for Medicham or for Alakazam, or just having more space for Inteleon, which is always nice. And we also have the Technical Machine Devolution, which can really help out against specifically the Charizard and Gardevoir matchups, where we can essentially go for this long game strategy of just gunning down lots of Pokemon, setting them up for a big turn where we swing the board completely with a devolution play. So I think the matchup spread for the Rapid Strike deck is really, really good right now. I think you have decent game plans into certainly every Lost Box deck, both the evolution decks in format. Thanks to your type coverage, you're pretty good into Miraidon and into Entei Valiant, so you're very, very solid across the majority of the formats. The matchups that aren't as good are Mew, Roaring Moon, and Snorlax, so there are some high-profile archetypes out there that you're not great into, but the general field is still favourable for you. So I think you can very much get winning records with this archetype. We finally started to see that in Stuttgart, where in previous events it was only really making a top 16 or so placement here and there, but in Stuttgart we actually saw 2 top 8 placements for the archetype. They were eventually both losing out to Lost Zone builds, and I do have to stress that Iron Handsy builds that also play Roaring Moon, like the Tord-esque style or the Christian Hodas style with the super effective glasses, these are harder matchups for Rapid Strike than maybe Tina or maybe the SableZard or like old traditional Turbo Lost Boxes, but I do think you still have decent amount of game into them, especially because there are actually many Lost Box lists that are cutting mana fee as well, so you can really stifle their Confe progression and deny Mirage Gate from them as well. So I think if you have pretty hot starts with this archetype, you're going to have a pretty decent time of things. The deck does function a lot around the Octillery's Rapid Strike search. It makes cards like Rapid Strike Energy much more easy to find. It makes Korrina's Focus a usable supporter card simply because it says Rapid Strike in the top right corner. It gives you some Iona protection, which is fantastic. And of course we have the efficient Gale Thrust for 150 or the Gmax Rapid Flow, targeting 2 Pokemon for 120 each. That means we don't need to play Boss's Orders in the deck list. I'm just playing an Escape Rope in here to push something out of the way, but also it gives us an easier retreat option for Spiritomb and Alakazam and Squawkabilly. These are our non-Rapid Strike Pokemon. Everything else we can retreat freely with Tower of Waters, which is also, incidentally, our searchable path bump, because we have, obviously, a lot of focus on Inteleon VMAX's Double Gunner ability and Radiant Alakazam as well, so that's really important. Our very paper-thin defense to Mew and to Snorlax to some extent is Spiritomb. If we can get this down early enough, certainly against DTE-based builds of Mew, this could be quite relevant. And ultimately, it does stunt the draw power of Control as well that little bit. They should be getting over the line, but especially because they're going to try and Stadium War you with Temple of Sinnoh, which shuts down pretty much your only energy that you can attack with effectively, and really make life a lot more difficult for you. So I don't necessarily expect to win the matchup, but at least this list is playing Rope and Churro, as well as like 3 Tower, to try your best at getting through them, but ultimately I don't expect it to be all that likely to get over the line. But that's neither here or there. I do think Rapid Strike is still what it's always been, that dodge and weave archetype. So if you pick the right tournament for this deck, it has the power level behind it to really spike. I do like the choice of having Squawkabilly in a pretty high research count. Yes, it makes you play like additional copies of Clara, energy retrieval, that sort of thing, but overall I think it's pretty coherent, and just drawing early to get into your VIP passes is still the most important thing for this deck, specifically because you want to get Remoraid, Urshifu, double Intel down pretty quickly so that you're able to pop off on that turn too. The one sneaky cut I've made is just going down to 1 TM devolution. This is really only for one matchup. I think against Gardevoir you don't always need this anyway. It's just for Charizard, and yes, it's a little bit risky in case you have to Squawk or research it against the Lizard, but I think it's only one matchup, and in most situations you should be able to protect it by using other supporters throughout the game in theory. So I think you can normally get around this, and it's just unfortunate if it's in your like opening 6-card hand, to be honest with you. So yeah, that's my take on the archetype. Honestly, it's been very well refined from other players. picking it earlier on in LATAM and in Gdansk, and it seems like players have made their own tweaks in Stuttgart to have good success, and that's pretty much what I'm doing, piggybacking from the previous top lists. So let me know your thoughts on the archetype. Is it going to show up in San Antonio, or are you still put off by the awkward sort of 5% matchups in the game of Snorlax, of Roaring Moon, and of course the genuine threat of Mew, specifically going to be the fusion-based builds of Mew as well? I'll hear your thoughts down below, and enjoy the games. If you're looking for PTCG live codes, make sure you check out the PoTown store. You can get a 5% discount on your orders using that code OmniPoke. So getting into our first game, our hand is looking really good actually. We're going second, but yeah, really well set with VIP, Vessel, Ultra Ball. This is literally everything we could possibly ask for. We see an Entei V, so it could be Valiant, and we may not even get a turn here. But with Ultra Ball, maybe it's a bit more likely that it's going to be a Zard build. And interestingly enough, I think you're actually okay into Entei Valiant as long as you don't start Lone Remoraid. But here we are, it's going to be a Zard list, which is much better outcome for us. They're able to fleet-footed Nest Ball out a Pidge and pass things over. Forest Seal Stone off the top as well. This hand just gets better and better, honestly. Really amazing start. We're able to Vessel. I can start pitching some of these energy early just to keep building the board here. Possibly a debate to get the Urshifu first before the research, just so I can get a water attachment, which is exactly what we go for. And the research even hits another VIP, so the hand is absolutely crazy, to be honest. We're just going to get one Alakazam and get a second Remoraid into the mix, and I can even hold on to Forest Seal Stone now for next turn, which is looking pretty solid. Really well developed board. This is an extremely setup dependent deck, so to get it sorted turn one really sets up the remainder of the game. We've already got water energy in circulation as well, so pretty much everything is going our way right now. See a fleet-footed from the opponent. And then we see Forest. They're going to recycle Charizard, maybe before a supporter then. See an Escape Rope. I can just leave a Remoraid still up front. Pidgey comes into the active, and then they go for a research. They do still have Forest Seal Stone, so you'd expect a Pidgeot here to come down with 7 fresh cards and one that can be tutored from the deck. This is going to be the Forest Seal Stone for Candy Pidgeot. Okay, so they're into the game. See more Charmander coming in. We see a Manaphy come down. Oh, so no pressure either, actually. Doesn't make a huge difference, really, in terms of the prize race, but it's still okay for us. We have one water in the discard pile, so I am just going to throw Iono into the mix before Octillery. And wow, we hit a lot of our rapid pieces here. We already hit Stadium plus Energy plus VMAX. That was a really good 6 cards. We are high rolling today. And because the opponent actually left a Pidgeot in the active, it's actually going to make our map a lot easier, because we want to punch into evolved Pokemon and then just evolve them all in one go. That's definitely like the strat here. So I'm really happy that I can just punch into Pidgeot here. You can see I was even debating doing less damage just in case the opponent has a Stadium bounce, because I only need 50 on the active. The upside of the 140, of course, is that the longer the Pidgey stays on board, the more I can Painful Spoon off it onto other Pokemon. But the goal is very simple here. Keep Charizard at their low damage output and just double gunner as much as possible, get as much value out of these VMAXs as I can. I'm still holding on to Forest Seal Stone, but that seems like it's getting vacuumed away here. I do have the backup of Octillery to get me into Korrina, though, so it was just a case where our hand was so good that we haven't forested just yet. There is another one in the deck, so that's still kind of okay. The opponent's going to get the Charizard EX into the mix now, as we see a quick search. They can finally start launching some attacks. Trying to two-shot the VMAX is pretty reasonable. They definitely don't want to Iono here, because we have a 3-card hand. Even with Octillery developed. I'll probably look for something else here. Let's see, they eventually do retreat and just swing into us. So they actually held a card, which is kind of interesting. We can Rapid Search just for that Korrina's Focus, as mentioned, because I can lower the hand size by attaching and beginning to double gun here. You can see that I'm, again, making use of more damage counters. If I'm punching into the Charizard, the opponent still can't KO me. So I'm just spreading counters across literally everything here without taking a prize card. You can see everything's going to 10 hit points remaining, basically. So I'm in a position now where I just need to dig towards Technical Machine Devolution, because the Urshifu can't be KO'd unless the opponent goes Candy Entei. Sorry, Candy to the other Charizard and Entei through the active with another bench Pokemon. But Entei's a good Pokemon for us to have in the active, because that could be our final 2 prize cards, because everything else is set up raring to get KO'd. The opponent actually does get Candy Zard, but doesn't necessarily have enough energy for the Entei, possibly. Because I would have expected Entei to be the best attack launched here. So they just hit with Burning Darkness again. We're in such good shape, right? This Urshifu isn't even a 3-prizer, and they still have to 2-shot it, and that's just one of the reasons why the matchup's so good. Ironically, the opponent Iono just back into Technical Machine Devolution, which was the only thing really holding back this situation. So it's really going to pay off for us right now. I do think Charizard is a very favourable matchup, honestly. As long as you just don't willy-nilly take prizes. And use the weird attacks like the Strafe and the Surf and just quick shoot as much as possible. We can begin to take prizes this turn because we have our Devolve play, so we know that we are taking out everything. I'm even going to go into Remoraid here to be as safe as possible, where I'm simply giving the opponent a 1-prize option if they want to do like an Iono play or something like that. I can even make second Octillery actually with the Ultra Ball, so I'm safe as houses, really, as the expression goes. And we're going to take 3 prizes with a big Technical Machine Devolution, monstrous swing on the board. And the opponent is forced into an Entei into the active position, which is perfect for us because it's got that really high retreat cost, and we have Inteleon VMAX, which can finish off the game. If the opponent wants to put like Charmander down or anything like that, we can try and ping it down with Painful Spoons and Gunners as well. We've got the Forest in hand, so it looks really wrapped up here. Very commanding position. Not too surprising for how good of our starts we had. And even our Iono into 6 really, really good cards, so this was a pretty dominant display. But demonstrating how the Charizard matchup ideally goes for us, to be honest with you. This was a real hot draw. And when Rapid Strike draws well, it's such an intimidating archetype. The opponent is going to Roxanne us. Actually get into Clara, which is more water energy, which is kind of interesting. As it stands, they still need to move the Entei for us to have any trouble. I've drawn into Tower of Waters, so even if the opponent passes into us, I can Tower, Rapid Strike Search, or Rapid Strike Energy, and that's exactly what we see here. Because we can go into a VMAX and just finish off the game, so yeah, pretty commanding win against Charizard there. Let's get into our next one. We have another VIP game. Crazy. And looks like we're in a mirror, which is kind of interesting, actually, how this mirror match functions. Because we're both going to try and deny the other player a bit of their engine. We both have a bit of hand disruption. We have lots of ping potential, a bit of healing potential in both lists as well, so it should be a fairly complex one. My hand looks like a pretty good Squawkabilly here. It's a bit of a shame because Squawkabilly is a vulnerable basic, but that's what we're going to go with. The opponent did get a turn 1 attachment onto their Urshifu, so I'm actually going to Squawk away Remoraid. But based on the hand, possibly just Clawing it back now makes more sense, honestly. Yeah, the Clara looks okay, because I get to bank a VMAX for next turn. I'm also holding on to Forest Seal Stone. Possibly could have played the other Forest Seal Stone out of the hand, honestly, but maybe holding it just for Vessel or Ultra Ball top decks. So yeah, we're a little bit vulnerable here. If the opponent can get a G-Max Rapid Flow, that'd be pretty dangerous. Even a Gale Thrust is pretty decent for them. Looks like they're playing with some Iridas. They're going to get the guaranteed Octillery turn 2. And the Double Gunner comes in. Yeah, they're peppering up Squawk because it's an easy way to some cheap prizes. We do see the Water Energy to Urshifu, so they can go for a Rapid Flow here. Take out Remoraid and damage Squawk would be reasonable. Oh, they're just going to Gale Thrust, actually. Wow, choosing not to Rapid Flow there is pretty interesting. I know we don't really... Like, the hand means we don't actually need the Octillery that much, but they really couldn't have known that. I definitely want to Rapid Flow here, though, because their hand size is really low, and if we can deny their draw engine, or certainly deny the easy Korrina's focus out of this, it's pretty big. We're going to grab VMAX here. Definitely want a Rapid Flow. I can pressurize the Inteleon as well, because it only has 200 hit points, so I could put that down to 140. Especially with this VMAX now, I can put 160 damage on it, and that would give me 2 Double Gunners to KO it next turn if they don't evolve, and capitalize on a weak hand from them. This is looking pretty solid. And we pick up another tower. That's fodder at this point, because no one's going to bounce this stadium. They have Ultra Ball for the fish, so they're playing the Irida Luminion list. There was a Squawk list and a Luminion 60 that did well in Stuttgart. I prefer the Squawk for the aggressive draw power in the openings, but the fish can bail you out in mid-game situations. As we're seeing here, a Rapid Flow. They're going to set up the Squawkabilly. I feel like they should take out Octillery here, probably. If that is going to be their prize map. Yeah, I feel like that's wasted damage now. Because Squawk, Octillery plus 1 VMAX should be their prize map. I'm able to Melony here, so I'm going to get another Rapid Flow in, which is pretty crazy, honestly. We have another couple Double Gunners as well, so I can finish off the Inteleon V, which is looking insane. And we're also setting up the fish now as well, which is pretty nutty. Just having so much damage flying around with Rapid Flow into Rapid Flow here. I'm going to take Alakazam. Knowing that I can Churro next turn to free up my board to close game would be pretty solid here. I'm holding an excellent hand, honestly. If I don't get Iono'd here, and yeah, we see a Melony, even with a Rapid Flow looking pretty scary. I think because they're limited to 1 Double Gunner, maybe if they can Alakazam, they could do some weird stuff here. But I think I'm in prime position to close the game. Also, if they open up bench space for me, because there's 160 damage on a Luminion, I could just Yoga Loop freely. So they kind of have to not give me board space here. Yeah, that's why they're not going to Rapid Flow. They're just going to Spiral. But now they've brought a 160 hit point Pokemon into the active for the last 3 prizes. So, yeah, I'm just in a dominant position. I can win with Churro here, right? Yeah. Churro looks good. Gives me a free retreat for a Gale Thrust play. And it gives me the space to open up Alakazam for Painful Spoons onto the active. So I would spoon 1 counter off Fish into the active position, and then evolve into the other VMAX, get Rapid Energy, and close just by Gale Thrusting through the active. Which is pretty cool. Let's get into another game. I saw Fire and Darkness Energy, so it's probably going to be the Radiant Zard that plays Roaring Moon, I would say. If I had to guess that combination of energy, and yeah, we do see Comfey straight away. And again, the VIPs have been very kind to us here. We have Urshifu Rem start. It's a pretty awkward hand, honestly. Yeah, I can see the deliberation of what I want to get into the mix here, but it is going to be Intel. So the board is pretty solid, passing things over here. Definitely like attaching early to Urshifu because it pressurizes that Manaphy. And there are some lists of Lost Box that don't even play Manaphy now. This one obviously is, but there are some gatey, turbo-y lists that don't even fit the Manaphy anymore, and that makes Urshifu even more dangerous. But they're going to get a turn 1 full board as well, so both of us drawing pretty okay. This is some selectings coming in. Do we see Colress? That's the big question. Going to see retreat for one more select. Yep. And no Colress, so no pressure. Is going to be great news for us. I can swing an energy onto Intel. We can also just grab Octillery here. And Octillery grabs the VMAX. So we can get a double gunner plus a prize here. Going to start pressurizing the Manaphy, obviously. You always want, because I'm taking out an active Comfey here, the last thing I want to do is put damage on a Comfey because we know they play 4 copies of Switch Cart, right? So I'm going to bank that damage just on Radiant Charizard. It's a Pokemon that maybe I could ping down, but it's definitely the Pokemon that they don't want to Switch Cart because it's just burning it so they don't get draw power. So that's why you're not seeing damage come onto a Comfey here. You never really want to give them the full Switch Cart value. They might have to spend Switch Carts just to ramp their Lost Zone and dig towards Colress, right? So we want to make it as challenging as possible for them to get that value. We're going to see a quick Raihan here. They have got to 4 cards in the Lost Zone, but they have been missing Colress. But honestly, just a swing of Cram isn't the worst thing here. They could try and get towards like a Charizard Gate response if I KO the Cram next turn. Yeah, we see a manual attachment onto the Charizard, so that's definitely in their thinking. Oh, nice, and they're able to Raihan for Countercatcher to deny Octillery, which is a pretty good play, actually. We get another Intel. I can double gun again here and just keep pressurizing. Now I am going to spread onto a Comfey, because I do want to start pressurizing multiple threats. And because if you put 4 onto a Charizard, then they can get more Switch Cart value than 20 over 2 things. You know, they would heal an extra counter. We're going to start re-establishing Remoraid, and I can just spiral here. Taking a prize. Because we have VMAXs, I don't mind like letting Charizard into the game, if that makes sense. Because I'm not that intimidated by 250 damage. I'm more worried about Roaring Moon, honestly. In some worlds, we would just swing for the 70 into that Cram and set up like Yogaloop, Alakazam, Shenanigan plays, but at the moment it's working out this way. Gonna see some more selecting from the opponent. A Gate actually hits the zone there, so they may have a tricky time towards Combustion Blast. But actually, if they're playing a Moon build, they're probably playing a high Gate count. Yeah, there's already 2 in the Lost Zone, so I imagine they're playing a full 4 copies to accommodate the Moon part of their deck. Sableye Rope hit the zone. Can they work towards Charizard? Needs 3 more energy total. One of them has to be a fire. So it was probably going to be a Gate. Or if they could go Roaring Moon Gate, that's also pretty solid. See a Rope. I'm not going to give the Charizard an easy 2 prizes. So I'll go into the Urshifu here. They're going to go Manaphy, so I imagine they've got a Switch Carts to play here. See Nest Ball. Is it Moon time? They are at 8 in the Lost Zone. Cram is okay. It does set up Charizard, so yeah. Again, it's just kind of slower turn from them. Just setting up a VMAX. Top decking Octillery ain't too shabby. I'm also able to Melony here into the active. I've got Forest Hill Stone available. I can keep getting more Intel into the mix. And we have the Water Energy to start flowing again. Looks like I'm trying to set up for Yoga Loop plus Rapid Flow, the Charizard here. That's why you're seeing 40 damage on it. So I can take 3 prizes this turn, effectively, if I just go for Oh, it looks like Medicham's not in the deck, so I can go for Spoons then. Spoons Rapid Flow is still a 3-prize turn. If we just take away... Ah, it looks like the Comfey is not selectable. Yeah, PTG Live ruining my time again. How is a Pokemon on their bench not selectable with Painful Spoons? I'll never know. So yeah, ideally we move the damage off the Comfey that's 40 damage on it, and then I'd be knocking out Charizard and a Comfey and leaving them with active Cram and a Comfey on their board. With 20 less damage on it, but here we are. Because PTG Live is being funky, we'll have to go this way about it. Either way, again, the Charizard can come into the active at this stage. That doesn't matter because I can just finish it off with Inteleon VMAX, so we're pretty well set here. The only thing they could do is use Roaring Moon to deal 220 damage, then it would be a tank in the active position. Oh, here it comes, actually. That is the best play they have possible. Ironically, the Fire Energy being on Charizard might be blocking their play. Yeah, we just see a concession from them anyway. We'll get another game in, and we get to go first. We have the Urshifu, we have Nest, we have Forest. Yeah, this hand is pretty solid as well, honestly. Oh, the top deck of the Battle VIP. It's just not fair. When this deck gets rolling like this, it's really disgusting, honestly. I don't have to squawk this game because the opener is so strong. I can just hold everything else. We have Ultra Ball next turn for Octillery. Maybe a small debate to playing down the Forest Seal Stone because Charizard can be an Iono deck. But also, equally, they can play double Vacuum, so... Didn't want to just lose it, you know what I mean? As we are going to see an Ultra Ball for a fish. You imagine it's Arven here? No, it's going to be Iono. Okay. So we have lost out on the free Forest, but they are also able to Nest Ball out Pidgey here. And our hand's pretty clogged up with Water Energy, actually. Yeah, so I'm going to proactively search VMAX here and just start using those double gunners. We saw in the last time I played Charizard, right? The damage on the active position really isn't what I care about at all. What I care about most is just getting as many double gunners around the board as possible and setting up KOs. I actually want them to evolve so that I can punch into them and take the prizes that way. Oh, interesting. So they're going to give us Town Store, which is looking pretty good, actually. They can get Forest Seal Stone for their fish. So they should be getting some stage 2s developed here. But yeah, like I said, the biggest trap you can do really is taking that cheap early prize on whatever they have. Because then they have Boss's Orders plays on your Inteleons and whatnot. And that's when things kind of go bad for you. You want to have the time to evolve into your VMAXs so you can build up the most intimidating board state possible, keep their damage cap as low as possible, knowing that you can just go yeet, pick everything back up during the game. Definitely the strat against the Zard players. See a Charmeleon, just a pass. Okay, so some people are having some low rolls into us as well here, honestly. We're going to Rapid Strike Search, get another VMAX. I can tutor out our Forest Seal Stone. Just slap that down. A Rogue Play is looking pretty reasonable here. I don't mind knocking out a Charmander. If they feed me Lumineon or Pidgeot, that would be actually really good for us. The main reason I say I don't mind knocking out... Oh, wow, they give us a Charmeleon. That's really weird. Okay. I guess they're trying to remove the 20 damage that's, like, on the board. But I can go down to 0 cards in hand now. Certainly, because I've been able to evolve into another VMAX here, taking one prize really doesn't matter, right? Because I'm putting them to 210, which doesn't change anything. So I may as well just take the Charmeleon off the board. Maybe a tiny argument there to Forest Seal Stone for Alakazam, so I could just take the 20 off the Charmeleon, but I don't think it's that big of a deal. We have 5 prizes worth of Pokemon on the board because I can knock out the Luminion, I can knock out the Mew, and then I can devolve Charmander and Pidgeot. So that's where the remainder of our prizes could come from, which is looking pretty cool. Going to see a Nest Ball for another Charmander. Into Quick Search. To Candy Zard. So they're back into this 2-shot position. Just going to see the retreat into the Zard and the swing. No, going to see the Rod first. Get Charmeleon back and then the Burning Darkness for the 210. Not too bad. We have Double Gunner, so we're going to start sprinkling some Pokemon. Can do it twice. There's the Zam. Again, I'm happy to punch into Charizard, so I'm going to take some counters off the active. Can Melony to the Urshifu, just get this one ready to rumble. We're actually going to go in with it now. I can hit the fish down to 260. Oh, sorry, up to 160. Leave it with 10 remaining. I'm even keeping my V-Star power open, so playing around hand disruption really nicely. I have so much damage built up over this board. And again, looks like I win next turn actually with Double Gunners and Devo. So let's see how the opponent wants to try and disrupt this, if at all they can. Because honestly, we're looking pretty dominant here. See Countercatcher getting rid of Inteleon VMAX, which makes sense, and then Iono. We've drawn into 2 Water Energy though, so it's pretty futile. There's Charmeleon. Oh, there's Jirachi, so it's blocking Yoga Loop at least. It shouldn't be too big of an issue though, because I have the Gunners that can get me there, and the Painful Spoons. Should be able to win this turn. I mean, I definitely win this turn with Devo, right? I'm just going to draw with Melony. We draw into Rapid Strike Energy. I'm going to grab the Medicham. This is mostly for BM. Which is just a ridiculous thing, but yeah. We're doing this to pretend to our opponent that we don't know what we're doing. We need to put the 10 onto the Charmeleon so that I can get the devolve value. We have to double gunner to finish off the fish, so that when I hit devolve, I'm taking 3 prizes. So yeah, looking pretty good. Nice bit of Medicham BM for the free prize KO. You love to see it. Nice Jirachi tech. Doesn't matter. Still get there. And let's have one final game. Looks like we have an Urshifu start. And still pretty solid. Again, it seems like we're high rolling, and I guess with the VIPs, exactly we are a little bit, but we essentially play 6 VIP pass with the Forest Hill Stones. We have Supporter Draw whenever we go second, and we have Squawk, so you do have really good outs of at least getting 1 VIP down. And our opponent has had a weak start, but it's looking like it's Tina, right? Because they're playing Path and Water Energy. We're going to get a Forest Hill Stone in for a Stadium Bump here. I'm going to swing energy onto Intel so that I can get an early Surf prod in. I can Squawk and Seize away Iono. Hand's pretty okay for next turn. I have Ultra Ball for Octo, so that should be okay. I have Melony for some draw. Potentially. Or Octo could get me Iono as well. Not Iono, Korrina. What am I saying? The opponent is able to chorus though, so they're getting into the game a bit here. They can Flower Select and get to 4. Maybe launch a Cram hit, which is relevant. It sets up a Lost Impact. Let's see. They could also Abyss Seek and just ramp the zone even faster. Let's see what they have available. Energy to the Giratina V. Rope is fine. I can just go into other intel here. I'm holding onto another Rapid Strike Energy. Yeah, it's just going to be the Abyss Seeking. Things pass to us. Oh, we even top deck Octillery. That's going to make the Ultra Ball even easier here. Ugh, we draw 3 supporters, so not much good fodder for this Ultra Ball, honestly. I guess I can just directly find VMAX here. Retreat back into it. Going to keep attaching energy to the VMAX on the bench. Knowing that we haven't activated Countercatcher yet, so the opponent can't V-Star through our Intel VMAX on the bench. They could be able to Lost Impact through... Nope, sorry. Requiem through the active, but not the bench Urshifu. We do see Chorus, we do see Gate. So things are getting pretty spicy over there for our opponents. If the opponent hits us with Lost Impact, we are holding the Churro. So that's kind of interesting. Going to see Nest Ball from them. What do they want to get into the mix here? Another Comfey. DC switch into selecting. Are they whiffing on V-Star right now? What are they missing? It's Tina. They're always missing something. They're always missing something. More selectings coming in. Does this? I think this gets them to 10, so maybe they just needed to hit the threshold for the V-Star power. It would definitely be best for them to use the healthiest Tina as well. Do see another Mirage Gate. They have already paid retreat, so it's not going to help them in that endeavor, but maybe again, if they are setting up a Lost Impact, it's okay. Yeah, double Tina getting powered up here. Let's see. That's a part of the peak. Are they really missing V-Star here? After all that? Yeah, they are. Okay, well, big misses. And Vessel's a great top deck, actually. That really unlocks what we want to do with this hand. Because we were just lacking water energy this turn, and now we're looking pretty good for it. We can Yoga Loop here pretty comfortably. Also Iono for a fresh 6. Ooh, that gives us Clara for the second of our turns here. As we're able to loop the Comfey. Comes back to us. Have a pretty easy discard here. And then we can Clara back some water energy. And just start gunning stuff down again. Now I can clean the Manaphy off the board. And we do have the option of Rapid Flow. I think just damaging the other Tina and taking out the Comfey's right here Yeah, I like this the most. I know it's the not most efficient prize-wise, but I think this is the best thing I can do on the board, actually. Just have two very heavily damaged 2 prizes here. The opponent also has to reload a Comfey if they don't... Oh, sorry, a Manaphy if they don't V-Star power here, but I assume they will. We see a Chorus from them as well, so they don't even get to hand disrupt us. We get to hold everything here. So the concealed cards. Because they haven't really had any tempo pressure, even if they do go for a Requiem here, I can just go for a G-Max Spiral over 2 turns to knock out Tina and Tina. So they really are in a pickle. We see Counter Catcher from them. That's not a big deal. I can do the same thing with Gale Frost, so that's fine. We are going to see the KO of one of our Inteleon VMAX. Oh, the Melony pickup off the top is actually game. So, yeah, I can come in and just rapid flow again and take more prizes. Yeah, I think they should have taken out the Urshifu anyway, especially if they're not hand disrupting, right? Because I have very much had Melony on the cards. But yeah, some great games actually with Rapid Intel. I think it's really scary for this weekend, honestly, for San Antonio. I think it's pretty well set. The ladder is a lot of Lost Zone decks because it's just doing well in many forms right now. A good amount of Tina Uprising, and I think there's going to still be lots of Charizard, lots of Miraidon, lots of Guardy. I think they're all very good matchups for Rapid Strike, honestly. I think it's kind of just hitting the percentages quite nicely. I think... Yes, it's pretty likely that you'll face at least Amu in day 1 and day 2 of the competition. So it may not still be the best deck to make top 8, but I think it's a very good points deck. So as long as you're proficient with Rapid Strike, I think it's pretty safe. Let me know your thoughts on the deck down below. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you tomorrow for another one. Cheers.